Hello everyone, Ceri the Crafter here, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter. And we're here with sort of a subscriber question answer type of thing. Okay, recently I've done a few 12 by 12 backgrounds, which are my favorite thing to do anyway, and you're probably going to see more of those from me in the future because I really do enjoy doing them. And as I read all of my comments, obviously I answer them as I can, but there are always questions that sometimes you just need to show. Now, this is sort of me paraphrasing elements from a couple of comments, but I'm terrible at names, but I think it was either Kathy or Linda is the one I'm sort of doing this for. And they said, Ceri, we love the backgrounds, but I've only got a 5x7. 5x7. What can I do with a 5x7? And this set me to thinking that, I mean, gel plates are not cheap. And I've been looking at buying a new 12 by 12, and the price compared to when I bought my original one, which is several years ago, I was quite shocked at how expensive they are. So, and I know there are cheaper brands and alternatives out there. So it's all a judgment. It's a considered purchase on your behalf, should you wish to go that. However, when it comes to anyone starting out, I always say to them, start with the 5x7. Now, there are smaller ones like 3 inches and 5x3s. The thing to remember, it's all about scale. Anything I make on a 12 by 12, you can scale down to do on a 5 by 7, but you can actually make a 12 by 12 using a 5 by 7. So in this video, I'm going to sort of strip back some of the stuff that I normally use and show you how I would approach making them. Now, just as an example, this isn't a print that I made. This is actually just a cleanup sheet from a 5x7. So as you can see already, I could be picking up my 5x7, putting it down and peeling it up with different layers of paint on here to create something. And this is 15 by 15. It's one of my backgrounds that I use in my art journals. So straight away, it's all about scale. It's all about scale. The only thing that I would say is, yes, I'm using a 12 by 12, which I cover boxes with, I cover book covers with, I cut down into smaller pieces for ephemera backs. All it means that if you're starting this size, you can still cover a box, you'll just need more of these. If you want to cover a book cover, you'll just need more of these. If you're going to do ephemera backs, you're already where I would normally cut mine down to. So just, those are things to bear in mind. Please don't get misled by my creations thinking that you can only do it on a 12 by 12. You can downsize, but I just personally like working in a 12 by 12 square format. So let's strip away a few things that I normally use. So first of all, this is the brand paper or card that I buy when I'm at a craft show or on the internet to actually do my 12 by 12s on. As you can see, it's 250 GSM. This is the only information I have. There's no website, no other information. And if I'm at a big craft show, as I was last weekend, I will just look for this logo on a stand. And then if they've got this, I'll ask them whether they've got any of these. Now, usually for about 20 sheets at a craft show, it'll cost me about £5, which means it's approximately 25 pence per sheet. Okay, just as a ballpark. If you buy them online, I find they're sometimes more expensive, and then I have shipping on top of that. So it can sometimes be almost half as that again. So that's what I normally use, but you don't need to. We're coming to the season of holiday, remember? So you're more than likely to find things like this popping up. So this was in my local hobbycraft store. And I can tell you now, it wasn't expensive. But just because it's got patterns on here doesn't mean I can't use it as a 12 by 12. Either I can paint straight over the top, or you know what? These aren't double-sided. So there's your 12 by 12. Now, the GSM on this is 180 instead of 250. That'll work perfectly well. So I'm just going to open this up and I'm going to take this out, and that's what I'm going to create on today. And depending on the colors you're going to be using, if you know you're going to be using some opaque paints you could just do this directly on here. If you're going to use transparent paints, I would use it on this side because you don't want that showing through. Arguably, you could just come in and your very first layer of paint could just be white. And then you've already covered this up. So as I said, I'm going to work on this side because that's where I want to do it. Now, I'm going to tie in a few other things. I'm going to do a 12 by 12 background, and I'm going to use my 5 by 7 to create it. I'm going to use my 4-inch speedball brayer. Now, if you've got a gel plate, you're more than likely to have a brayer of some description. Doesn't have to be this one. It's probably just a brayer. Okay, so if you've got one of these, this is where I'm starting from. Now, you've seen me a lot of the time use mark making tools, foam stamps, other stuff. I'm going to do a very similar thing because I just want to prove the point that you can still deliver just by using a 5 by 7. I'm also going to tie in a launch that I did earlier this month, last month, where I created the stamp that does these swatches. And I said I was going to start generating cards. So I've been going through some of my own artwork, and where I've found color combinations I like, I've created these, a bit like the Pantone cards or the cube cards that you see. So this is what I made for myself. So this is the color scheme I'm going to use. I want to see whether my thoughts work. So if I use these colors, will I end up with a background I really love? Because the other thing I made was covers for ring binders and really love this color combination. So I happen to have the buttermilk. This color, I think, was this color. I can't remember because sometimes I will decant into these sort of bottles because they're easier to use. I know that was the dark teal from Arteza because I squeezed it into here. I have the Lucas Krill Terracotta, and I have what I consider Van Dyke Brown. So just so you know, now I did make notes on this because I thought it was handy for myself. This works really well with pink or orange as accents to it. So knowing that, I've got that there and it's always going to be there for me. So that's what we're going to work with. Now, first part of the process for me is going to be getting stuff down. Now, we don't have a gel plate here. So we don't have a gel plate. This is going to move around a bit and my work surface is going to get messy and painty. Doesn't matter to me. I can clean it up afterwards. So I'm just going to start by getting some basic colors down. Another thing I'm going to do, because you see me do it all of the time, is whenever this is dirty, I need to clean it up. I'm going to take some newsprint off-cut paper to clean it up. That could be packaging paper, could be brown paper, could be paper bags, it could be anything you wish, could be pieces of already pre-cut ephemera. So where is some? I've got some somewhere. So say I've got some, these are manila file folders. Oh, there we go. Is that the company? Oh, I can't find it. I saw it just flashed by just quickly. So yeah, these were offcuts of, oh, there you go, like manila file folders, and I just made them into backs, so I could clean that up by putting paint on these. I'm not going to, but know that that's another way to utilize this paint. Now, I'm literally going to work with my brayer to start, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to get paint down on this. Now, I am not concerned that I get paint on the back of this. It's very rare I would use a 12 by 12 for something, a piece of ephemera, a journal cover, or anything like that, without backing that said piece of ephemera or backing that journal cover or anything like that. So I've got that on there, and I'm immediately going to pick this up and just put it back on here and just lift off any spare pieces that are on here. As you can see, as the paint starts to dry, it'll take more and more off this plate. I'm also got a damp cloth here. It's one of my arty cloths. It's stained. It's not dirty. It's literally just stained. I try not to have this too wet. If it gets too, sorry about that. If it gets too wet, I can use a bit of kitchen paper, just pick it up and periodically wipe it down like that. Okay, so that's our first layer. Now, as with anything I create, it is all about layers. It always is about layers. It's what I love doing. So I'm going to go to my next color. bit of an air bubble in that one. Probably a big bit of an air bubble in that one. Come on, out you come. There you go. Now, the only thing I would suggest is if you're going to be doing this sort of thing, don't work on just one background. Have several backgrounds on the go, because you will always put too much paint out there for the little bit you want to put on here. Have 2 or 3 backgrounds on the go. It's never going to be a problem to use a background. I mean, how many times have we created something and then gone, oh, I wish I had more of that. I really like that color combination. So I'm just going to leave that like that. And this is where I'm going to bring in that newsprint paper and just start creating a whole nother background, just using my 5x7 to build up color onto this sheet of paper. Now, as this video progresses, you may find I cut out sections. If I'm cutting out sections in a video, it usually means it's something boring like creating cleanup sheets. Okay, just so know that you haven't really missed out on anything. Now, I would normally say the other colors I use when I'm doing something like this is white and black. I may pull in white and black as I go along, but with the color selection I've got here from my color card, then I think we're going to be okay. So let's have a little... I think I'd like a little bit of the terracotta in here next. Don't need a lot, just a little bit. So I'm just resting the brayer down. I'm not necessarily pushing down into it. I'm just creating a little something here. Now, I have got a bit of paint here. This would be the ideal time to use this on another one, or use it on some of those ephemera backs that I've got that I'm building up. Even spare bits of paper, and you can gel print directly into an art journal. But I would warn that if you're doing it directly into an art journal, sometimes it can be just a little bit hit or miss, because if it doesn't work out for you, you've printed directly into your art journal, okay? There's nothing that says you can't just put a layer of gesso over the top or white paint just to get it back to a pristine piece of page that you can work on. I'm going to turn this 90 degrees because I do that to not fool myself, but to convince myself not to be working continually in one orientation. Right, I think I am going to pull in some white. I mean, I don't write white and black down on my color cards because they're always a staple. They're always something that I do use within my art. So this time I'm going to pick this up. Now, you can just come in and pick your plate up. I mean, mine's been stuck down for a while, so I can pick my plate up. Interesting design. That wasn't what I meant, but there you go. So once you've picked it up, you can come in with this plate. Now, I tend to pinch the edges to hold them, and that means I can come in and just press it down gently and just put bits of the paint down as you wish. I could leave it on the plate. The trouble is that sometimes if the paint is a really sticky paint, it doesn't like to let go of the card, and you'll end up in the dilemma of how do I get it off the page when it's stuck to the acrylic plate, which it doesn't need to be on. This could be just sitting directly onto this surface. It doesn't need to be there. So as you can see, building up layers. Now, I've got white on here. I'm going to go back to this color, so I don't actually need to take the white off. What is wrong with these? It's very cold here today. I'm wondering whether it's got something to do with the paints being, because that's very, very stiff paint. I wonder whether it's the cold affecting them. I think I might need to put the heating on in the house later. So just coming in now. When I do color stuff, if I add white to it, it's making a tint. If I add a complementary, a contrast, or black to it, I'm creating a shade. So as you can see, we're getting there with this. Again, just come in with this. Now, when you make up cleanup sheets like this, as you know, because I've said it 100 times before, I tend to use these to make backgrounds. I glue them to the surface of my art journal pages as a starting block. You could, besides using that for collage medium, those papers, you could take your favorite pieces. Where's the other one? Say you've got a really favorite section of this. Say you really like this. You could cut that out and back that onto a piece of card, and then you've got the back for a journal card. You could take a bigger piece and make a journal cover from it just by sticking this down onto it. Now, just while I'm thinking about it, I just want to remember, I haven't told you what these colours are. So the colours I chose for this selection is Deco Americana, which actually is this one, and it's buttermilk acrylic. The turquoise colour was Pebeo Deco Creme turquoise number 27. This one was Arteza Dark Teal. This one is Lucas Krill Studio Terracotta 4655. And then I've got Winsor & Newton Van Dyke Brown. And then the orange and the pink, I didn't actually write codes down because it was just things that I know would work for it. So I'm creeping up off the page there. Right, so I've got most of my colours in here. I think I'm going to go with the dark teal at this point. Well, that's a bit more happy to come out of there, isn't it? Right. Now I'm just going to put a bit of that out there. Yeah, let's do this. Right, so the thing I've been cleaning up the surface with, scrunch it up, pick up some of the stuff, and just press it into this. Now, you're going to get a more subtle effect by pressing stuff into it, okay? I don't have a huge amount of paint on there. As you saw, it wasn't a lot, but it's enough for me to pick up and create areas of interest. I sometimes do this with kitchen foil. I sometimes do it with plastic wrap. I sometimes do it with freezer paper. The only thing is when you're doing it with kitchen paper is you'll find that it starts to break down and fall to bits in your hands. But you can do it with other stuff. And then there's always a case of just coming in and swiping with your brayer. You are likely to get these sort of lines if you use a brayer. That isn't a problem in my book. I'm just going to come in, I think I'm going to pick up certain areas of that. I'm not pressing too hard. I'm just touching it down, giving a little bit of a rub. Try not to get these harsh lines involved in what's going on the plate. Now, we did note that this was 180 GSM, I believe. So you'll find that the paper will become saturated more quickly, or I'm finding it, other than using my 250 GSM. So you have to be aware of that, because what's happening is, if this is your paper, so if I'm magnifying that edge of the paper will be made up of layers of fibers. If you're starting to put paint on top of wet paint, these are beginning to get saturated. So then when you pull things away, you're going to start lifting away the layers of paper or the fibers within it. So just be careful. If you feel it's getting too wet, just put a hairdryer on it, get it dry, and then you can continue going on. I even do that with the 250 GSM cardstock I use, as you've seen, because sometimes the amount of paint you put down really does build up. Right, where am I up to on this? Right, I know I'm going to have to go light again in a minute, so I want to take this opportunity to put some of the Van Dyke Brown down. Right. Now, how do I want to do the Van Dyke? I want to do the Van Dyke. So give it a turn, because we know what I'm like. I think I want to skim some of this across with the brayer. So I've got paint on here. I could brayer this off on something else to reduce the amount that's on my brayer. Okay, just so you know you can. And I'm literally just letting it skim across the surface. I'm not looking to get a full brayer mark. I'm looking to get something that is just making the page look a bit fatigued. And that might be a word I'd like to use for this. Right, so there you go, that's that. Again, I'm going to clean my brayer off on that. Again, just come in with the cleanup sheet. And I'm going to do one more thing and then we'll get to putting some marks on this. I might even use a foam stamp or two. I'm going to attach in the description box. So if you look under the title of this video, there's probably about a line or two of text. And then at the end of one of the lines, it'll say more, M-O-R-E, in bold letters. If you click on that, it will open up a window. Depends on what device you're in. It'll depend where that window opens up. And once you've opened that, in there will be links to other things. I try to always put the links pinned to the top of the comments as well. So if you can't get the box open, look at the top of the comments and you might see a pinned comment from me. Click on that comment and all the links will be in there as well. So, and I'm going to put a link to a video that's called Free Mark Making Tools. It was a video I filmed a while ago and I was just basically making mark making stuff out of cardboard and found items, and it's a very useful video. So I'm just coming in with the buttercream one more time, just trying to get multiple layers in before I start to work with any sort of patterning. I do love this color combination, which is why I made the card in the first place for me, because it's one I don't want to forget. I just enjoy this color combination. That's that. Let's get that off there. Now, I'm going to pause the video at the moment, purely because I want to search through my mark making stuff and have a look and see what I'm going to use on this. And this will actually give this a bit of time to dry a bit, just so that it's not as saturated with paint. So I'll be back in 2 seconds for you. So I'm back. Okay, so in fairness to some who may be on a budget or not have access to the equipment I'm going to use just pure packaging. So this is just regular bubble wrap, and this is just a piece of corrugated card that must have been wrapped around something that was delivered to me. If you have corrugated card that's got cardboard on both sides, you can sometimes spritz it with water and peel off the front cover. It makes another interesting texture. So I'm going to start with this actually. Am I? Yes, I am. And I'm going to come in with the dark teal color. Now, because I'm using corrugated cardboard, don't forget the cardboard will absorb some of the paint. So if you're looking for perfectly straight, regular width lines, you're probably not going to get it, guys. But then that's the joy of mixed media. So I'm just tapping it down a few times. Just come in. I find it beneficial to make sure the edges of my corrugated card are straight. So I just cut down one of these troughs, and then that sort of kind of prevents me going off at random angles, which I'm not a fan of doing that. I like my stuff to be vertical and horizontal. So, right, there you go. So now I've got that on there. I think I'd quite like another little bit up here. If I can just get a little bit in there, I can. So now that gives you lines. If I turn this 90 degrees and do exactly the same thing, I now have a grid. So some of you that have actually seen me using that non-slip draw liner that I use to make grids, this is another way to do it, guys. Absolutely another way to do it. So there you go. So I just leave this dry. I do not clean it. There's no need to clean it. You can also see by the amount of paint that's left here, I could quite easily have had several other pieces of background on the go. And that's one of the joys of gel printing. You just keep printing and printing and printing. I mean, that's probably why I've got drawers full of gel prints. And probably why most of us have got drawers full of gel prints. It's a very addictive, fabulous technique. So I'm just cleaning this teal off here because I want to change colour. Right, and if you've got stuff left on your brayer, if you're using paper, hold the paper down before you push the brayer, because sometimes it'll pull up and wrap inside your brayer. That's never a nice scenario, because then you're either ripping the paper or you're jamming up your brayer itself. Now I'm going to just clean this off with my damp cloth. I use one cloth, sometimes two a year, and I just, when I put my laundry in, I will sometimes throw these in with the laundry. That's my way of not using as many wet wipes. And this was just a face cloth. It was just from my local pound store or inexpensive store, wherever you are in the world. That's all that was. Right, I would like to bring back in some of the terracotta because the terracotta really worked for me. And I'm going to come in with that bubble wrap now. Again, I don't need a lot of paint, just a touch of paint. Also, I am using a combination of everything from a good quality paint to a craft paint. So I'm not using anything that's not easily found. Craft paints work wonderfully for gel printing. I did most of my life gel printing with craft paints. Let's put a little bit more of that down there. I like to do things in threes. It's a habit. I didn't say it was essential, but it is a habit. So there you go, got that on the go. Now, I personally would like to put a bit more white into this. It's part of the process I do. It is my personal choice that I add white every so often because it actually just changes up the layers of colours I've got and it pushes stuff into the background. Let's just move this out of the way. Right, that needs a bit of a clean up there. So how do I want to put white on? I don't particularly want to use the plate. If I use the plate, I might leave lines. I might just go in with, well, actually, no, I know what I can do. Right, I'm going to get a store card, just a store card, regular store card, and I'm going to put a bit of paint down. Now, I am going to brayer this out purely because I'm just flattening it out. And I'm going to pick some up on my store card and I'm just going to swipe it over here. Now, if you're flatter to the surface, you're going to get more of a solid line. If you're more vertical, you're going to get a thinner line. So just going to put this in several places. Just to break things up a bit. Also, don't forget, if you've got something like a store card, if you swipe it back and forth a couple of times, you can make lines as well. So at the moment, I've not spent any extra money on equipment. If you've got a gel plate already, then this is what you could be doing, guys. You could be creating your own backgrounds. And I'm not using anything that kind of isn't really out there already. So I'll just put a few of those lines in there because they tend to break it up a bit. Now, I think, as far as this goes, I've made it a little muddy. Like, I'd like some more cream in here. I'd like to get this off this plate as well. So I think I'm going to come in with a little bit more cream, or buttercream, I think it was called. It was buttercream or buttermilk. I can't remember what it was called. Oh, stuck to the plate. So is this buttermilk? I think it's buttermilk. It was buttermilk. So I'm just going to come in with a little bit more of the buttermilk, just because this is a bit dark and dingy to me, and I would like to change that up a little bit. Also could do with a bit of a clean up here. It's easier to clean up the paint as you go along because obviously it's not dry. It'll wipe off better. If you leave the paint on your surface to dry, you're more than likely going to have to scrape it off or leave a damp cloth or something over the top of it to soak it off. So I think I'm going to come back in with this. Just a little bit. I do love this colour. I can only seem to get this in America. I think I've got another 4 bottles because the last time I went over there, I bought like 7 bottles of it. So I'm going over to the States again this year at some point, I believe. Yes, I think I am due to go to the States again. So guess what I'll be buying more of. So just bringing that in little bits. Just this flicking action is something I really like. It just pushes everything back into the background and gives it a little bit more interest. There you go. Let's get that rolled off. Sarah, I'm going to pause you for a second because I want to put a hairdryer on this. I've added at least 3 layers of paint to this and it needs to be dried off before going to the next bit. Gosh, what is wrong with this paint? I break my finger squeezing this bottle. So just a little tiny bit on my brayer, just a swipe here and there. That's better, that's what I wanted. Right, now I'm going to stop the video and get this fully dried with the hairdryer. And I'm back, and it's dry. Definitely dry enough for me to work on anyway. So in the vein of trying to use inexpensive tools, I've got the innards of a washi tape, roll of washi tape. Let's see, something similar to this, but just the inside of it because I've kept it. I'm just going to put a few circles on here, and we're going to come back in. Do I come in with this? Actually, I might go in with this. I'm in love with this terracotta colour at the moment, so do forgive me for being indulgent. So just the tiniest little bit, guys, and just brayer it out slightly. And then I'm going to use a bit that's already got paint on because this end is nice and pristine. This has already got dried paint on, so it will give me a more interesting image. So I'm just going to stamp it down, give myself a couple here and there. Doesn't have to be perfect. I don't want it to be perfect. I'm just trying to add something to my print. Yes, it does need something down here. And one up there would be nice. Just over that one again. I think one by there. So what I've done now is I've just created another, and I'm going to leave this dry with the paint on it because that's just how I built it up in the first place. So I should get this bit just cleaned off here. So as you can see, we're getting to the tail end now of when I would consider this print finished. So let's just pop that down there, clean up a little bit so I've got almost a clean type of work. And I will show you that clean off sheet at the end, just to show that the whole process itself created another gel print, or another background, should I call it, not necessarily a gel print, but another background. So here we go. So this is where we're at. Now, you could keep going until you went, I'm done. Like, as I said, on the little footnote on my card, I said, pink or orange would look good in here. I'm not going to do it this time, but it is good to see that you could use other colors. Now, I'm going to come in now with a focal point. Now, I'm going to use one of my new stamp designs purely because it's here. I haven't used it yet, and I want to. It's called Mystic Eye, and I designed it last month, and it just came out, what, 2 days ago, yesterday, something like that. I just want to try it out because I haven't even written the name on the back. It's that new. So I'm going to put some of them on here, but you could easily come in with other mark making tools. I have this whole box here, which is mark making tools. Like this spiral was made in the video I was talking about. I think the fish was made in there as well. So just simple things. These are all made of cardboard. Like there's a cork there for stamping. This was made in a video too. This was just pieces of card stuck together. Here's a bigger roll, that was duct tape. A bigger cork. The lid from a candle that I got, they're wax lyricals. So this stamped circles. Just things, guys. So just don't think you need to have every piece of equipment in the world. You just need something. So, and we've all got things hanging around the house. We'd be surprised how they work. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to use a little bit of black because for me, I get the most drama when I use black. Gosh, even this one's thick. It's got to be cold weather. So I'm just going to braid this out just so it's even on my plate. And I'm going to come in now. I tend to press in the middle more than anything else because I want to make sure that everything is covered. And I'm going to come in and I'm just going to sit it down, gently press it in the middle, go around the point. There's no need to hammer it. There you go, that's lovely. Let's turn it just fractionally so it's a different orientation. I'm liking this. It's funny when you see something when you're designing it and it's on paper, it all of a sudden takes on a completely different life when it actually is a product in your hand. Well, I think that's enough of those ones. These will need to go straight into water so that the paint doesn't seal. I'm going to come in with a smaller version, and I want a little bit about there. Oh, I like it even more there. Now, I designed it so you could interlink them with each other. I'm not going to do that here because it would just take too long, and also the video is not close enough. But just to have a little bit of something like that. A little bit off there, a little bit down there. So let me just put that up there a second. Yes, put that up there a second. So what I mean by linking things in, because I'll do it on here and wipe it off. So I'm using the big one so you can see it. So if I stamp an image here, I've done it so that I can line this up and stamp it again and stamp it again. It works so that you won't get an exactly repeating process, but it does mean if you look at it, there's allocation there for the edges of the stamp to work their way through. As I said, it's not supposed to be a perfect tessellating design. And I'm back and we're all cleaned up. So before we take a closer look at the print, let's look at the cleanup. Now you saw me doing this cleanup sheet as we went along. So see, this was all done with the remnants of the paint left on the 5x7. So I think you can agree with me, even though we've only got a small plate, we can do big art. Now let's look at the print we've actually made, which is this one. Now the only thing on here that wasn't a found or easily accessible item was my new stamp, Mystic Eye, and there'll be a link to that in the description box. Obviously, I mean, I'm a designer, I'm going to promote it. However, you could have done anything you want on here with any mark making tools you've got. Everything on here is quite easily accessible. Corrugated cardboard, bubble wrap. This wasn't an expensive pad. I would say it was about £5 or £6 for a whole pad of paper at Christmas. Just using what I can, and I didn't use expensive paints. I used paints that everything from just a craft paint. The most expensive paint was probably the Lucas Krill paint, but it could have been any brand you want to use on here. So for those of you who are feeling that maybe you couldn't do the bigger prints just because you've got a smaller gel plate, or maybe you're on a budget, you can do it, guys. You're an artist, you're creative. Just look around and see what you've got. Don't be limited by the size of your plate. You can go big. If you've got a plate, you've got one of these. If you've got these, you've got easily that. Okay, so hopefully that helped. As I said, I don't know whether it's Kathy or Linda, but there were a few others around who have asked the same thing. Yes, you can make a print this size on a budget and with small equipment. You don't need a 12x12. I mean, I love my 12x12, but you don't need a 12x12 to do a 12x12. So hopefully you found that helpful. And thank you for your patience with all of that. I'm Ceri the Crafter. That's Ceri the Crafter. Until next time, goodbye now.